This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, hi guys. Today onwards, we're going to talk about Python. So Python is very important again because as a data engineer or a big data developer, so we have to have some basic understanding about Python. So, so for next 1 week or so, we will completely focus on Python. Then we'll talk about Spark. So let's get started. So what is Python? So Python is a programming language. Python is a programming language, and I would say that it is the simplest out of all. What are programming languages that are available right now in the industry? I can say that this is the simplest out of all the programming languages. So, and let me give you some more background about Python. So, it is interpreted programming language. So, sometimes you might get an interview question saying, okay, is Python a compile based programming language or interpreter based programming language? It is interpreter based programming language. That is, it's going to take each and every line and then execute the code. So, you don't need to compile your program before executing it. And Python is completely interactive. We will see how to interact with Python. And then so Python is again platform independent. You can run the same code on different different machines: Windows, Linux, Unix, Mac, etc. And Python also supports the object oriented concepts. We'll learn all those as we progress through. So the latest version of Python available in the market right now is 3.9. So you have to remember this because some interviews will ask you this question: can you tell me the latest version of Python? So then your answer should be Python 3.3.9, right? So 3.9 is the latest version of Python. And so to do the coding of Python, we are going to use a software called as Anaconda. So what is Anaconda? Anaconda is a free open source distribution of Python programming languages. So Anaconda provides an application called as Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook is something that we're going to use to write all the code in Python. And the latest version of Anaconda that we have is Anaconda 3. So these are the download links of Anaconda. So I will share this with you in the chat box. Again, I will show you now how to download from the internet. It's pretty straightforward and simple process. So let me just go to one of my browser. So here you just have to say Anaconda download and then click on the first link. Once you click on this first link, if you can see on the right hand side, you can see a download icon. If you're using Windows, this will directly download the Windows one. But if you want a clear distinction between among all the three operating systems, what you can do is you can scroll to the bottom of the page, and here you can see the different versions of Python. Now, when I say different versions, if you're using Windows, click on this. If you're using Mac, then you can preferably click on this. So that will download the Anaconda for you. Again, installation is pretty straightforward. Just follow the default steps. You should be able to install Anaconda, right? So, so once Anaconda is installed, then we will launch Anaconda. You just have to say Anaconda Navigator. Just search for Anaconda Navigator. Just click on it to open. So Anaconda is a platform where you can get lot of applications, and out of those, couple of important applications are something that we're going to use on daily basis in the project. I'm going to highlight those now. So the first important application that is quite used in the projects is nothing but Jupyter Notebook. So if you can see here, these are the different applications that are given to us by default. So the important one is nothing but Jupyter. So you can see this is the one that we're going to use primarily. So it is a interactive based platform where you can do the coding Python in the easiest way. Then the other important application that we're going to use as a part of project is PyCharm community. So this is the one that we're actually going to use in the project. So we will learn these two as we progress through. But to get started, we will be using Jupyter Notebook. So you can see a launch button here. This is what I'm going to click so that it will launch Jupyter Notebook for me. So this Jupyter Notebook will launch on one of your browser. So in my case, Google Chrome is the default browser, hence it will open up this page on the Google Chrome, right? So in your case, if it is Mozilla or Windows Edge, it will open up the same on the respective browsers. So then what we are going to do is we are going to go to our downloads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my downloads here. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to create a folder. Let's say Python practice November 2022. So you can create this folder. So we're going to create all the Python files here. So I'm going to access this same path from my browser. So let me go to my browser here. So I'll go to downloads button here. You can see there is downloads icon. Then here just do Control F on your keyboard. Search for Python practice November 2022, or you can just search for November 2022 to get the results faster. It's the one that I'm going to use, Python practice November 2022. Click on it. So right, you can see it is showing us the notebook list is empty. So right now we have just installed Anaconda, we have launched Anaconda Navigator, we have launched Jupyter Notebook, we have created a folder, but that doesn't have any Python files or notebooks there. We are going to create a one today. So to get started with, I'm going to create a new Python notebook. So from this new button here, just click on Python 3. So here the title is showing as untitled, but I'm going to change it. Just click on it, then give the name as Python introduction. Click on rename. So the code that we're going to write on Jupyter Notebook is like, you can see there is a rectangular box that you're seeing, right? So this rectangular box that you're seeing here is called as cell. All the code will be written in this cell. So to get started with, we'll start with Hello World program. So let's see how to do the Hello World program in Python. So I'll go to my Jupyter Notebook here, print Hello World. How to run this cell, this rectangular box, you can click on this run button here at the top. That will run the cell for you, and you got the output as Hello World. Right. So let's do one more. Print. Now you can see that you got the results. So that's how basically you can write the code in the simplest way in Python on Jupyter Notebook. So now let's try to understand about identifiers in Python. So what is an identifier? So to give a simple example, every person on this earth will have a name, right? So similarly, whatever we do in Python will have a name associated with that. So if you create a class or functions or names or functions or variables, everything will have a name associated with that. That is nothing but the identifier. So identifier is the name given to the entities like class, functions, variables, etc. Again, we are not going to talk about classes and functions today. We'll talk about variables today, and gradually we'll talk about functions and classes as well as we progress through. So let's try to understand the rules for writing the identifiers. So the first rule is identifiers can be a combination of the letters, lowercase letters from A to Z or uppercase letters from A to Z, or the numbers from 0 to 9 or underscore. Only these are valid whenever you try to define any variable or identifier. So let me show that. So I'll go to my Jupyter Notebook here and I'll try to add a heading. From this drop down, you can select it as markdown. Oh, sorry, not markdown, heading. Select as heading, click on OK. Rules. So I'll give the same name that I have here. rules for writing identifiers. Rules for writing identifiers in Python. Then you can actually run this shell by click on this run button. Click on this run button. If you want to change this name, you can just double click on it. You can just fix it. I can just click on run button. So now let's talk about the first rule, name, right? So let's say I wanted to give the name as, let's say, country equal to, let's say, India, right? So now I wanted to run this cell. If you want to run this cell, you can click on this run button, or you can use shift and enter on your keyboard. Shift and enter together on your keyboard will run the cell for you. What is the value? You can just use a variable name. Again, do shift enter on your keyboard, you got the output. Here, country is a valid identifier because it contains only the lowercase letters, which is actually valid, right? Now let's do one more. Let's say person name equal to, let's say, Ram. So this is just a random name. Then we can just see the output. Now you can see it contains an uppercase letter also, which is nothing but N. That is also valid. So your identifier can have the combination of lowercase letters or uppercase letters, or numbers, or the underscore. Underscore is the only special character that is allowed. So coming to the second rule, an identifier cannot start with the digit. Suppose if you start your variable name with 123 person name, that is not valid. So let me show this. Let's say 123 person name equal to, let's say, Sam. Now it's going to fail because the reason is this is starting with the numbers. So starting with numbers is not allowed, right? But if you slightly change it, let's say person name 123 should be valid, right? Now you can see the value. So that's how it is. You cannot have any identifier or variable starting with a number that is not valid. So keywords cannot be used as identifiers. So there are a bunch of keywords in Python which cannot be used as uh, identifiers because they have got special meaning. Hence we can't use it. So one of such keyword is nothing but global. Let's say global equal to 456. That's not going to work because global is a keyword and we cannot use it as a variable or identifier. Then the last rule is nothing but we cannot use special symbols like exclamation, at the rate, hash, dollar, uh, percentage, etc. in our identifier. Only underscore is allowed. So let's see that as well. Let's say ABC at the rate EF equal to test. That's not going to work because the reason is at the rate is not a valid one. Instead of at the rate, if you replace that with underscore, that should work fine. Now have a look here, we got the output. That's how you can basically define your variables or identifiers based on these rules. Now let's talk about comments in Python. So what is a comment and why do we need it? So I'll give a real-time scenario. So let's say that you're working in a team and one of your team member left the organization or left the project, right? So whatever work that particular individual has done, so everything may not be understood by everyone, right? So it's a good practice to define the comments. Otherwise, it will be tough to maintain that code written by other team member who left the organization because you may get some bugs in that module, or you may get some features to be added in that particular module. If you don't understand that code, you won't be able to maintain that code going further. So it's always a good practice to include the comments in your code whenever required, especially whenever you feel some piece of code is little complex for others to understand. So that's the place where you have to add the comments to your code. So, and it will help you yourself as well. Let's say after 6 months, you have to revisit that particular module to add any new feature. you may not remember everything that you have done 6 months ago. Right? If you add comments, then it will help you to recollect certain things. So it's always a good practice to add comments to your code. Again, the thumb rule is do not override, do not overdo it, because if you start adding comments to each and every line of code, that will that will not look good. So hence, try to add comments to your code wherever it is necessary, especially if you wanted to explain any formulas or business logic or any complex logic that you wanted to explain, that you can do it by using comments. So let's see how to add comments in Python now. So I'm going to add a heading. From this drop down, click on heading, click on OK. Let's say comments in Python. I'm going to shift enter on my keyboard. So I can say this is a comment, right? So I can just say print hello world. Especially the comment should explain the logic that you have written there. So now to make it even more interesting, so you can say below below code will in the details of the terminal, something like this. Print login. So these are the single line comments. So basically, if you want to comment a single line, then you can do it this way. Now we will see how to do multi-line comments. To add multi-line comments, you can use this hash symbol. This is an example for multi-line comments in Python. So you can have multi-line comments added this way. But instead of this, there is a better approach of having the multi-line comments in Python by using triple quotes. Start with triple quotes, end with triple quotes. So whatever comes here, that is considered as a comment. This is another way of adding multi-line comments in Python. Right. So these are the different ways of defining the comments in Python. Again, this is very important to remember. Wherever you feel the code is little complex for us to understand, you should definitely add your comments over there. So we have seen single line comments, multi-line comments both. Now let's talk about statements in Python. So in statements also we have two types of statements, single line statements and multi-line statements. So let's see both. So I'm going to add a heading. Click on heading, click on OK. Statements in Python. So here, whatever you have in single line is called a single line comment. Let's say a equal to 10. This is a single line statement. Let's say I wanted to have two variables defined in the same line. Let's say b equal to 20 and c equal to 30. This is not valid. So even though these are two different statements, we are trying to add them in same line. This is not allowed. If you wanted to have multiple statements in a single line, then separate those with semicolon. This should work now. Have a look at their values. B is 20, C is 30. Right? So that's how you can have multiple statements in a single line as well. Now I wanted to have different values to different variables in a single line. Suppose I have D and E, then I can have 40, 50. Now D is 40 and E is 50. Right? So that's how you can have same in the same line. You can have different variables with different values set in the same line. Suppose if you wanted to set same value to multiple variables in a single line, That is also possible. Let's say f g equal to, let's say, 100. Now all these will have the same values. So these are all single line statements. You can even have the multi-line statements also. Suppose, let's say I equal to, I wanted to find the sum of the numbers from 1 to 9. Let's say 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9. So if you try this, it is going to fail, right? It's not allowing me because this is a multi-line statement. Hence, I have to keep everything in the round brackets. We call it as parenthesis. Only then it works. So now let's keep everything in the parenthesis, that is round brackets. Run it again. Okay, I'm missing out plus symbol here. Should work now. Now look at the value. It is showing us 45. Right? So if you have multi-line statements, then you can enclose everything in the parenthesis, then it should work fine. The second way is to, you can actually break down the line into multiple lines by using backslash. So I can say j equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus backslash. Then you can just say 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus and then backslash 7 plus 8 plus 9. So now have a look here, both are same. So these are the two different ways of having the multi-line statements in Python. You can use round brackets or you can use backslash to define your multi-line statements in Python. So we spoke about variables, right? So variable is nothing but a name that you give. Now let's talk about storage locations in Python. Again, this is not so important, but some interviewers or some written tests will ask about this. Hence, I thought of covering the same. So you can check the storage location of a variable in the memory by using ID. So let me add a heading for the same. Again, this is not so important. Sometimes it may be asked, hence I'm covering it. Select it as heading. Storage location. So suppose let me define two variables. Let's say a equal to 10 and b equal to 20. Values of a is 20, sorry, a is 10, b is 20. If you wanted to see the memory location address of these, you can just use id of a and id of b. Have a look here. Are these values same? They are not same. They are different, right? Because their values are different. So there is one interesting thing in Python. Just give me a minute. I think it got hung. Because I'm audible now. Can someone confirm? Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, there was some glitch. Sorry about that. I'm back. So now I was talking about the storage locations. So have a look at these storage locations are different because their values are different. But one interesting thing is if you have the same values, then they will have the same storage locations also. Let's say c equal to d equal to 30. Value of c is 30, d is also 30. If you look at the storage locations, they will be exactly same. Have a look here, they have got the same values. Right? So the point to note here is if you have the same values, they'll have the same storage locations. If the values are different, they'll have different storage locations. As simple as that. Now let's talk about data types in Python. So one interview question here. The interview question is, they may ask you whether Python is a dynamically typed programming language or not. The answer is yes. Python is a dynamically typed programming language because we don't need to use the data types to declare any variable. Suppose if you say a equal to 10, then it will automatically assign the data type to a as 10 based on the value. So let me show that. So let me add a heading. Data types in Python. Suppose if I say a equal to 10, value of a is 10, and if you look at type of a, that's showing as integer. But did I mention anywhere that a is of integer type? No, I haven't. Even though I haven't mentioned anything, it will automatically take care about assigning the data type to this as a integer, right? So that is why Python is called as a dynamically typed programming language. Now, suppose let's say I have b equal to 12.5. The value of b is 12.5. If you say type of b, that's showing as float. Now, suppose let's say I have boolean type. So boolean is nothing but it can have either true or false. C equal to, let's say, 10 greater than 5. Is this true? Yes, that is true. And if it's a type of C, that's bool. Bool is nothing but boolean. So boolean can have only two values, either true or false, nothing else. So similarly, let's say if you have D equal to, let's say 100 is greater than 200, that is false. The type of D, that's bool. Bool is nothing but boolean. So boolean can have either true or false, nothing else. Now I have a string s equal to, let's say, hello. Here, if you look at type of s, that's a string str. So these are the different types of data types that are available in Python for us. So we have seen the numerical type, we have seen the boolean type, we have seen strings. Now let's see how to do the conversion among these data types. So I'm going to add a heading. From this dropdown, select heading, click on OK. Conversion among the data types. Suppose let's say I have an integer called as a equal to 10, and if you look at type of a, that's an integer. I wanted to convert this integer to a floating value and assign it to a new variable called as b. Let's see how to do that. I can say b equal to float of a. So now if you look at b is nothing but 10.0 and it is a floating type. So we have converted an integer to the floating type. Let's say I have c equal to 12.5. So c is nothing but floating type, data type. So now I wanted to convert this float to the integer and assign it to a new variable called as d. Then I can say d equal to int of c. Look at value of d showing as 12, and if you look at type of d, it's going to be integer. So when you convert from float to integer, whatever is there after this point will go off. Hence, we'll be having the value as 12. So that's how we have converted from float to the integer. Now let's say I have a string type now. Let's say 123. If you look at 123, this is string because if it's a type of E, that's a string str. I want to convert this string to integer and assign it to a new variable. Let's say f equal to, I want to convert this string to integer, hence I'm going to say int of E. Look at value of f, it's showing as 123. Type of f is showing as 12 integer. So we have converted we have converted string to integer. Now let us convert integer to string. Let's say g equal to, let's say 456. So g is what? G is nothing but an integer type. I want to convert this integer to string type and assign it to a new variable called as h. H equal to str of g. Look at the value of h. It's showing us 456. Type of h is showing us string type. Right? So that's how we can do the conversion among all these data types. So there is one interesting thing that you should remember here. Let's say I equal to I have 1 2 3 ABC. 1 2 3 ABC. So here if you look at I, this is nothing but string type. I want to convert this to an integer, assign it to a variable. Let's say j equal to int of I. That's going to throw value error because the reason is I doesn't contain only the digits. It also contains the characters or letters such as ABC. So if you want to convert from integer to string and string to integer, always it should contain only the digits, only the numbers. Otherwise, it will throw value error. If it is just 1 2 3, then it will work. But because it contains ABC also, it's throwing this. And we have seen that example above, right? You can see we had just only 1 2 3 and we're able to convert it to the integer type. But now here, this contains even the characters also or the letters also, such as ABC. Hence, you cannot convert from string to the integer. That's going to throw value error. Again, every day I'm going to give you some Python tips and tricks because this is very important. Even in the interviews or project or wherever you go, Python plays a key role. Hence, I thought of covering Python tips and tricks also so that it will become easy for you to crack any of the interviews or do well in the projects. So let's add a heading for the same. So I'm going to add a heading for Python tips and tricks. Python tips and tricks. The first one that we're going to understand is checking the Python version. So here I'm going to use a module or package called as sys. Again, don't worry about this statement for now. Import sys, don't worry about this for now. It's just a Python library that is available. Sys stands for system. And we can use this to check the Python version on Jupyter Notebook. So again, we'll talk about import sys, etc. later. But for now, to start with, we're just going to import this line and then check the Python version. Checking the Python version. So import space sys dot version, that will give you the Python version. So right now I have 3.9.7 available. So let me go ahead and then modify that. 3.9.7. Guys, one interview question here again. So in the interviews, you may get a question such as, okay, which version of Python are you using right now in the project? So in the project, don't say that you're using 3.9 because 3.9 being the latest version, generally we don't prefer using it so soon. So you can say that you're using Python version 3.8 in the project, if at all if they ask in the interview. Because always remember any software latest version cannot be used in the real-time projects because there could be some bugs in the latest version. Hence, we preferably go with the previous version of it, which is nothing but 3.8. So in the interviews, say that you are using 3.8, not 3.9. So that's how we can check the Python version on Jupyter Notebook. Now let's talk about the memory usage. So suppose if you have defined a variable or identifier with integer value, let's say 1, if you wanted to find out how much memory is it being occupied, then you can again use sys package or sys library, sys.get size of that variable name. You should be able to get the memory usage. So let me, let's see, get memory usage. So if you import it once, you don't need to import it again, but I wanted to show it to you. 1 second. Import space sys, let's say x equal to 1, print x dot get size of sorry, sys dot get size of x. You can see it showing us 28. So that's how you can get the memory usage. So this is interesting one. This is again asked in multiple interviews. So how do you swap two variables? So first of all, what is the meaning of swapping? It is nothing but extending the values. So right now the value of x is showing us 10 and y is showing us 20. But now I wanted to swap them so that x will have the value as 20 and y will have the value as 10. Let's do this. Swapping two numbers. Let's say x equal to x comma y 10 and 20. So I'm going to say print x. I'm going to print y. So let's do one more thing. So print before swapping. Before swapping. Now we'll copy this and so now we will paste the same code here. After swapping x comma y equal to y comma x. Let's run this. So have a look here. Before swapping the values, you can see the x value showing us 10, y value showing us 20. Now after swapping, x is 20, y is 10. So it's very simple line of code. To swap two numbers in a single line, you can use x comma y equal to y comma x. Again, this is very important interview question. I'll tell you how this is asked. So they may ask you this way. So how to swap two numbers in a single line, right? This is how we can do it. Or they may ask you how to swap two numbers without using a third variable such as temp. So on the right hand side that you are seeing is actually swapping two numbers by using a third variable called as temp. But if you wanted to swap two numbers without using a third variable, then you can use it this way: x comma y equal to y comma x. So this is especially asked in the initial screening rounds or telephonic rounds, etc. So just remember this: to swap two variables in a single line, you have to use x comma y equal to y comma x. Again, this is interesting. You can use underscore to get the result of the last expression. Suppose if we say 3 into 3, that is 9, and you can access this 9 by using this underscore. Let me show that. Use underscore to get the value of the last expression. So I'll take the same example. 3 into 3 is 9. Now if you say underscore, interestingly, you'll have the same value automatically available in underscore. You can use it underscore plus 4. That should get you value as 13. So this we have already seen chain assignment of variables, where you have defined the same values to the multiple variables in a single line. X, Y, Z equal to 2. All of those will have the same value. This is called as chained assignment of variables. Also, we have seen the multiple assignment as well. So if you wanted to have different values to different variables in a single line, we have done it already, right? So I have done it for two variables. Let me do it for three now. So let me add a comment. The multiple assignment x, y, z equal to 100, 200, 300. So look at values of x is 100, y is x is 100, y is 200, z is 300. But one interesting thing here, on the left hand side you have three variables, on the right hand side you have three values. But what if you have some more values, something like this? You can see on the right hand side you have more values, on the left hand side you have only three variables. If this is the case, it will not work. Let me show that. Advanced multiple assignment. So now let me take different example. A, B, C equal to 10, 20, 30 and 40. On the left hand side you have three variables. On the right hand side you have four values. Sorry. So they are not same basically. Now if you try to run it, this will fail. Too many values to unpack. If you see this error, then immediately you should fix that problem by using this. So you should use under the asterisk symbol or the star symbol before y or before the middle variable. Let's say star b. Run this should work fine. Look at the value of a will get 10 and c will get 40, which is the last one, and whatever middle values are there 20, 30 will go to b as a list. If you look at b now, b is a list. Type of b, that's a list. So that's how we can deal with this. Now let's talk about help function. If you wanted to get any help or any documentation or any information about anything in Python, you can just use this Python help function. That will give you more information. So let me add a heading. Let me add a comment for help. Now I wanted to know a little bit more about print statement. Then what you can do is you can just say print. You can just say help of print. Now you will get the documentation about print statement or print keyword. So that's how you can get anything that you require just by using help function. So based on today's session, guys, I have got 10 interview questions for you. So what I would suggest is go through this recording, practice everything, then come back to these interview questions to answer them. Right? I'll be providing answers in a separate file so that you can cross check. And also I'll do one more thing. I can download this notebook and I'll share it with you. So the way you can download it is click on file, download as HTML. So that will download. You can see at the bottom left corner, I have it downloaded in the HTML format. You can open it in any browser. If you just click on it, you can see that whatever I have written today, you will get the same thing. So what I suggest is keep this as reference and start practicing. So one suggestion is don't copy paste. If you copy paste, you will never learn it. Always you have to type it and learn it. That is the best way to learn anything. So I will share the PPT, slides, notebook and interview questions in today's folder. You can have a look at it. So that's all I wanted to cover, guys. So anybody have any further questions, let me know in today's session. Any questions so far? Okay, if there are no questions, I think we are good for today. Let's meet tomorrow. I'll upload this notebook in today's folder. See you then. Bye.
Thank you, Vamshi.
See you. Bye.